Can you draw Pokey? What if I draw an abstract Pokey? Her hair is a lot straighter today when I saw her. She has giant eyes and she's really pretty. She has a curvy body. Okay, I don't feel safe right now drawing this at the moment. Yeah, and Alfred had a lot of viewers today. It was really cute. I bet you he was like, oh my god, this is my chance to show all my talents that I have been keeping inside of me for years and years. Time to whip out the nails, the needles, the violet. I don't know how to draw violet. Playing cards, the Rubik's Cube. Oh, fuck, I don't know how to draw Rubik's. The Rubik's Cube. Yeah, okay, I'm done. I can just draw random subs actually. Bucklet, you sound like a bucket. You're a bucket with like buck tooth because you're bucklet. Drunk mage, you're like... Mages are like, you know, wizard hats, whatever. Oh my god, this looks like a gnome. You're really drunk. In fact, you're so drunk, you accidentally did a spell where you live inside a bottle of alcohol and you can't get out until someone kisses you with pure love. But no one has done that yet, so you're always drunk inside this bottle of alcohol. And the alcohol is sentient. Pumpkin offended. You're like one of those pumpkins who were born in like probably the year 2000. You're like a 2000s baby. And you're offended over everything because your name is offended. Pumpkin offended. You're a very angry pumpkin. And you're like, I demand stop turning my brethren into pies. And you go outside and you picket outside people's houses every day. And say no to pumpkin slaughter. Stop making us into food. We are not your food. We are living sentient beings. Oh no, why do all my stories turn out really sad? The next story is gonna be really, really happy. I promise. Meal bot. Okay, so you're an eel. But you become a meal! Grilled eel! I'm sorry. Eggy boy 25. Okay, you're just a regular boy, I guess. Yeah. Oh, and then you eventually grow up into a man who's 25 years old. It's basically the same thing except you're willpower. And eventually you find an eggy girl. And then you end up marrying because you fall in love. And then eventually that you become a family. The eggy girl has a little eggy baby. And the family is like super nice, right? And eventually you get older and older, right? And then your little son grows up. And soon you become an eggy old man, and your spouse also becomes an eggy old grandma. But then both of you are very happily in love because your son is now a fully grown eggy man of his own. And he says, goodbye mom and dad, I have to go off to an adventure to my life. And you're very happy, and eventually your spouse passes away. Now you're getting older and older by the day. You just sit in the porch thinking about your life pretty much. Sooner or later, all the eggy little grandchildren come to you and ask you for stories about your youth, and then you obviously tell stories about how when you were an eggy boy, you went on all sorts of adventure, but now it's your turn. And then they're like, we love you, Grandpa. You're like, I love you too, grandchildren. And eventually you get older and older until one day you too pass away. Your son goes like, my dad have wanted to be cremated. They stand over the cliff, right? There's water over here, and everyone's here ready to pay respects. And finally, he takes you and he cracks you open, and your contents flow out into the wind and into the ocean, where your yolk mixes with the water. Okay, that was Eggy Boy 25. Hope you liked it. Lonely Cat 175. So you are a lonely ass cat. You have no friends. You're domestic, short hair. You're at the adoption center and you've been in this shelter for quite some time. They have food and some comfortable bedding. They found you as a stray 3 months ago, and they think you're approximately like 8 years old or so. So you're an old cat. You've had some owners in the past. There was a collar, but it got ripped away in the harsh weather. So now you've been in this shelter and people come, people go, but all they want are really kittens. So they usually just pass by you. You also have like a little scar here, so no one really wants you, and you stay there for months and months and months. You start to lose hope that you'll ever get a home, honestly, because people see you, then they bronze love you because there are much cuter cats in the shelter, you know? Younger cats too. And no one wants an old cat, you know? So you just stay there. Sometimes the people who work there come in and check up on you and say like, oh, good kitty and stuff like that. But you know deep in your heart that this is where you'll probably die. One day, a little girl comes and sees you on the thing, and she's like, "Mommy," she says something blah 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 blah. The mom's like, "No, this is an old cat. Are you sure you want this one?" The mom goes to the worker and be like, "Excuse me, can we let my daughter play with this cat?" Now you have the opportunity to go out, and you're in a little isolated room by yourself with the girl to see if like you guys are gonna bond or whatever. And the girl keeps trying to entice you with the wand and everything, and trying to get you to come out with treats, but you're so disillusioned by humans that you stay inside the shelter. So the girl's like, "Oh," and the mom's like, "See, sweetie, I told you, these old cats, like sometimes they just don't, they're not friendly enough. Like, let's try to look for another shelter, okay?" And then the girl gets really sad, but eventually they leave. Now you're back in your cage again, and you think that's fine. Like, this is my life now. Like, I don't really care anymore, honestly. Like, this is where I am just going to live for the rest of my life with all the other shelter kitties. No one wants an old cat anyway, blah blah blah. A week later, the girl comes back again and goes, "I want to play with that same cat again." And now you're just like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, she could play with any other cat. Why does she keep choosing me? The worker lets you out again, but this time you're a lot more, I guess, more curious, because even if you're very jaded and stuff, like the fact that this girl came back twice now makes you feel a little bit loved, you know? So the girl comes back and then she tries to play with you again, and this time you respond well to the treats that she gives you and everything. And the girl, you even let the girl pet you a few times, right? And the girl really likes you. And then eventually you warm up a lot, and you do that thing cats do where they like rub against the legs and stuff when they really like you. You even purr. You haven't purred in years, so you purr, and eventually you let the girl pick you up, and she is in love. She absolutely loves you. She can't be more than like, what, 12 years old, but she absolutely loves you. And she's like, "Mom, I want this one." And you know, you actually hate being held like this. Honestly, you're not supposed to. You think like cats aren't supposed to be held like this, but you don't care in that moment, surprisingly. Like, this is the first time you've ever felt like this before, so they actually adopt you, and you go home to your new owner. The girl names you Mr. Scara because you have a scar on your cheek, and she thinks it makes you look really badass. And now you spend the rest of your days with lots of food, good bedding, lots of love, and you live a good solid 17 years of life, which is pretty long for a cat, and that's a happy ending. You are a tender piece of steak. Oh my god, you're so tender. You're like the most juicy, like you're like Wagyu beef material, okay? And you're so ready to be sold, marinated, cooked at some high-end steak restaurant. But there was a mix-up at the factory. They mixed you up with a cheap $5 Walmart steak. So instead of going to a famous Japanese Wagyu beef restaurant, you go to a random ass Walmart freezer section and you're put on sale for $4.75. And you're like, wait, what? Sweat. They have to eat me within like a few days, otherwise I'm no good anymore. But now you're just sitting there, and then like you see every other shitty piece of meat get picked up except you. They don't know how tender you are, and you try to like make yourself look more tender and juicy, but everyone's ignoring you. Your price gets lower and lower. You're pretty sure that you're not even supposed to be eaten anymore until you're $175. You are literally marked free meat, and no one takes you because you look so questionable. And eventually the Walmart employee is like, "Yeah, this piece of steak's gotta go, man." And you're like, "Wait, what? My value? I was crafted from the finest cows and free range meat and everything." Nope, you get tossed into the trash bin. Except there's so much trash in there that you bounce out and you land next to it. So now you're just like this kind of half packaged piece of meat, and you're literally sitting there going like, "Oh my god, this isn't how my life was supposed to go. I was supposed to be cooked in a high-end steak restaurant. I wasn't." I mean, you're not like rotten, don't get me wrong. And you were in the freezer, so to be fair, you're still like okay. So now you're a hard piece of meat. You're not very tender anymore, actually. All of a sudden, you see your worst enemies. Raccoons coming in for your delicious flesh. They surround you and they look hungry. They want to eat you. Holy shit, this is how my life ends. Oh, GG. R.I.P. There was no point in anything anymore, was there? You close your eyes and you're ready to accept your fate. That even if you were the most juicy, tender piece of meat, that means absolutely nothing now. You're just a frozen piece of meat. And the raccoons are about to eat you They're hovering over you when you hear a loud barking noise. And to your surprise, there's a dog defending your honor. Bark, bark, bark. And the dog has 3 legs, by the way. The dog's also pretty abandoned and kind of scruffy looking. Bark, 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 bark. And the raccoon's like, oh, hell no. They try to fight the dog and they get into this skirmish. But the dog comes out victorious and the raccoon goes away. And they're like, we'll be back. The steak is like, okay, I guess I'll be eaten by a dog, not a raccoon. But to your surprise, the dog's like, hey, how are you? My name is Mr. Bubbles. I used to have an owner, but they abandoned me in this dumpster, and now I live by myself. I look after a lot of other sentient beings like yourself, and I'm not gonna eat you, don't worry. And the steak is like, huh, maybe we have something going on together, you know? So Mr. Bubbles and Tender Steak become best buddies. They look out for each other. They start rummaging the dumpster together, and then they find all sorts of like cool things. The dog gets food, and the Tender Steak is just happy he has company. Hours go by, and the dog starts getting really hungry, right? And the sun starts to shine, and Tender Steak starts melting. And the dog's like, oh man, I don't know if I can go on any longer. I haven't eaten in 3 days. He knows what he has to do. Tender Steak goes, eat me. What? I can't do that. You're my friend. The Tender Steak's like, listen, I was born to be wrapped and eaten in a restaurant. If my life can be of use to at least one living being and help them get by, it'll have been worth it. I lived a very hard life, but dog, you saved me from those raccoons 4 hours ago, and honestly, you're the best friend I've ever had, so please, eat me. And the dog's like crying hysterically, and he's like, Tender Steak, I can't do that. Eat me! You have to eat me. This is the only way we can you can survive at least. Otherwise, we'll both die. And the dog cries and cries. And as he's crying, he eats the steak. I did a good job. This is how everything ends. And there's dog drool all over him. So it kind of tenderizes the meat more. So in the end, he does become a tender steak. Holy shit. Oh, there was this really cute video you did. Hold on. This was so cute.
No! Delete that shit.
Wait, it's so cute though.
I don't want to watch it. Don't make me watch it. I should delete it.
No, don't delete it. I live off of your old videos.
Delete it.
It's so cute though.
Delete it.
It's so cute.
Delete it.
It's so cute.
Delete it.
It's so
Delete
cute.
it.
Don't delete it. Don't delete it.
Delete.
No. I need to go, guys. Let's host this guy's toast because he's gonna join us on the podcast anyway, and I love hosting him when he has to go sin. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys. Have a good day.